Mike, Sports, Vibes. Thank you for vibing with the Bull. The 76ers can be the next dynasty if, and I understand you're probably saying to yourself, nah, bruh, nah. Yes, I'm saying yes, they can. If they, and it's a big if. Number one is stay healthy. Joel Embiid, stay healthy. The MVP of the regular season, stay healthy. Right? Because I'm looking at all what I know we're not going to get rid of. We're not getting rid of Joel Embiid. Most likely, we're not getting rid of Tyrese Maxey. And I think Tyrese Maxey can play point guard. I think Nick Nurse is going to challenge him to be the point, especially when James Harden leaves, right? When we trade James Harden, right? And we already have two good pieces already. We just need to build around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. We got to get rid of James Harden. We got to get rid of Tobias Harris, not just for anything, but for pieces that can work with the two stars that we have on this team, the superstar and the star in Tyrese Maxey on this team. So I'm thinking like this, the best comparison right now, because we have the coach, and I'm not going to say he's as great as Greg Pop. I'm not saying that. But he is a champion. Nick Nurse won a champion with the Raptors. The only championship in Raptors history, right? And you're probably saying like, stop, Mike. Stop the Cats. Just stop it. But let me just break some things down, and I'm going to talk my talk. Best believe I'm going to talk my talk, right? So when the San Antonio Spurs drafted Tim Duncan in 1997, you're thinking like, wow, this is going way back. But just hear me out. Just hear me out, right? In round one, pick one by the San Antonio Spurs, they won when they drafted Tim Duncan. They started winning a lot more than they created a dynasty. When they drafted Tim Duncan, they literally drafted a dynasty. That's how great Tim Duncan is. In 1999, they won a championship, right? With David Robinson. I'm talking about since Tim Duncan was drafted, right? I'm not talking about before because I don't really know the San Antonio history. I don't really know the Spurs history like that. But I know in 1999, they won a championship with the great Tim Duncan, and they had another great big man named David Robinson. He was a center. So they pushed Tim Duncan into the power forward position. Even though Tim Duncan, he could play power forward, he most likely, he was going back and forth, right, throughout his career. I look at him more as a center than anything, but I guess that's a debate for another day, right? All I know is Tim Duncan is great. So I'm not going to talk about the whole team in 1999. We're going to talk about a more recent team because I'm putting all the common denominators that we have. We only got two players that I know for a fact that's going to be on this team for a while. Hopefully, because anything can happen, right? So I'm going to go to 2014, right? The way they built around Tim Duncan. Oh, in 2003, it's just like, all right, they won a championship in 1999, 2003, 2005, 2007, and 2014. I'm going to talk about 2003 real quick because I had to mention this guy named Bruce Bowen, Manu Ginobili, Steven Jackson, David Robinson. They won that championship, right? They just built around Tim Duncan the right way. But let me just go all the way to 2014 because that's more recent because we're already in 2023 and y'all like they can't build a team like that now. Okay, so let's go to 2014. The way they built around Tim Duncan is how we should copy. We need to copy that, right? And people could say what you want. You can say what you want about the Spurs dynasty. Oh, it wasn't the most flashiest. But the one thing I will say is they knew how to play. They knew how to win. The ball movement was second to none. I never seen ball movement like the San Antonio Spurs. Never. I don't know. I can't think of a team that had the ball movement like that. I can't think of a team that has so many players that can really ball out at any given time, like the San Antonio Spurs. So in 2014, this guy right here, because this is so crazy. I'm going back, but Marco Bellinelli, right? Underrated 3-point shooter. shot 37% from three, right? They had Kawhi Leonard, right? Kawhi Leonard shot 38.7 from three. And this is when he was young. We talking about Kawhi when he was young. It wasn't all these injuries that we got going on now, right? And back then, he wasn't that guy, but he was one of the best defenders that in basketball at that time. And he would shut down the other team's best wing player. It's kind of like when in 2003, when they won the championship in 2003, Bruce Bowen was Kawhi. You know what I mean? Bruce Bowen was Kawhi, or do you want to say Kawhi was Bruce Bowen? Whatever you want to say, that's how it was, right? And then they had Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. The weakest player when it comes to shooting the ball was Tony Parker, and he shot 32% from three, right? Manu Ginobili shot 36% from three. Patty Mills, coming off the bench, shot 38.9 from three. Danny Green, we all know who Danny Green is. You can say what you want about when we had him. He was okay when we had him, but when he was with the Spurs, oh my goodness. The man played great defense, and he could shoot the three from 40%. He shot the three 40%. Just think about that. So they put nothing but shooters around Tim Duncan. Most of them can defend, besides Patty Mills, and Marco Belinelli wasn't the best, but a lot of them can defend. They had a point guard named Tony Parker that can get you a 30-piece nugget any given day. So this is how they need to copy. This is what they need to try to be like, because you have the center. If you're trying to win a championship with a center, you need to build it like this. Put a whole bunch of players that can shoot around them. Tony Parker is like, I'm not saying Maxey is greater than Tony Parker right now, because we know Tony Parker is a champion. I'm not going to disrespect Tony Parker. But I think, in my opinion, Tyrese Maxey he's like the Tony Parker. And then we're going to say Joel Embiid is like Tim Duncan. I'm not saying there is good. I'm not saying there is great. I'm not even going that far. I'm not going to disrespect Tim Duncan. I'm not going to disrespect Tony Parker. But we have two of the most important pieces. We got the point guard and we got the center. We just have to build around, kind of like the Spurs. Like, the way they played was like, what's the words I could describe how they played, man? The ball movement, it wasn't nothing fancy. They wasn't dunking on nobody, but they just knew how to play the game. You ever go to a pickup game and you see that old head that's picked last, and you just think that he don't got no type of game? You pick him, and he doesn't do nothing flashy, but he's making the right pass. He's hitting the J. He's just doing everything right. You're like, dang. The other team, I know they regretting it because he's just doing all these plays. They're just the team that you do not want to go against. They're not the flashiest. And they had a dynasty under the great Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan is a 5-time champ that he doesn't get the love and the credit he deserves, because he is an all-time great. He is an all-time great. He has the same amount of championships as Kobe Bryant. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't the flashiest. I remember I going to a Sixer game when we had Andre Iguodala and them, and I was just watching how Tim Duncan just made it look so easy. The post move, the little mid-range jump shot. He even started shooting threes. And in 2014, he definitely wasn't in his prime. 2 years later, he retired. He wasn't in his prime. But the one thing that Tim Duncan had for his whole career was defense. He played top of the line defense his whole career. Second to none, in my opinion. Was blocking shots, altering shots. The man was simply one of the greatest centers / power forwards of all time. And I think even when Joel Embiid, because this is the thing about Joel Embiid, when his offense isn't doing the best, sometimes his defense kind of follows that. For him to take that next step, when your offense isn't on, still play the other side of the ball. Still play top-notch defense, even though your offense isn't what it needs to be for that particular game. And the one thing about this dynasty, okay, they had Greg. I'm not going to say Nick is up there with Greg Pop. the dynasty, the ball movement, the way they built the team throughout the NBA. Like the NBA changed from 1999 to 2014 drastically. You know what I'm saying? And that's how great Greg is to just adapt throughout the years. And that's what we need to do. Even though we need to go a little bit backwards and copy what that 2014 team was. I don't know who's going to be the Kawhi Leonard for the 76ers. We got to find that. I don't know who's going to be all these shooters like Marco Bellinelli and Manu Ginobili. Oh my gosh, get into Manu Ginobili. I'm trying to not make this video too long, but I just have to talk about this. Manu Ginobili, wow. It was one of my favorite players, like coming off the bench. And then it's like crazy that Pop, like Greg Pop would he would come off the bench. He would have Manu Ginobili come off the bench, but then sometimes, depending on how the previous game went, he would change it up and put Manu as the starter. That's the type of mind games Greg Pop would play. And that's the type of coach I think Nick Nurse can possibly be with the team we have now. And hopefully we make some moves to try to copy that 2014 team. But Manu Ginobili was special. Coming off the bench, he can literally, like I said, he can come off the bench and give you 30. Patty Mills can come off the bench and give you 20, 30 points. When they get hot, they're unstoppable. They had multiple players that can hit a clutch shot. When they needed a basket, they had multiple players. Leonard could have hit a shot. Like all these players. And you know who they beat in 2014? They beat the Heat when they had Chris Bosh, LeBron James, and D Wade. You know what I'm saying? So they dominated them. You know what I mean? They almost swept them. They beat them in 5 games, y'all. They beat them in 5 games. So the way this team was built special. It was built the right way. I'm not sure how the Sixers are going to get, what are they going to get for James Harden or Tobias Harris? Maybe Tobias Harris is going to stay. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do when it comes to the James Harden and Tobias Harris trade rumors. But I will say, in order for the 76ers to be a dynasty, and I'm not going to put the Sixers on the level of the San Antonio Spurs. I'm not crazy to say that, right? I'm not crazy to say that. But they can get a couple of championships if they build this team like the Spurs in 2014. Literally copy the way they played. Literally play the way they played when it comes to the ball movement. I have confidence that Joel Embiid will improve and will be healthy in the playoffs when it counts the most. Because his defense is really good. And his offense, we already know how he can do an offense. He has more in his bag than Tim Duncan offensively. He's not more clutch. He's not better, but he has more in his bag than Tim Duncan when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm telling the truth with that. When it comes to Maxey, he possibly has more in his bag than Tony Parker, even though Tony Parker can hit a clutch shot. And Tyrese Maxey is a way better shooter than Tony Parker from 3. And probably in general, you know what I'm saying? But we shall see what happens, man. I am very excited for this upcoming season. There's a lot of questions, but the Sixers can be the next dynasty if they build like the San Antonio Spurs of 2014. I know I went far back as 1999 and 2003. They won it in 2005, 2007. I understand that, but the most recent is, of course, is 2014. And we have a center, so let's build around our center like the Spurs did with Tim Duncan. Leave in the comments below. Let me know what you think about. Is it a possibility if we get the right pieces, if we trade James Harden and trade Tobias Harris, can we be a dynasty? I think we can. But I need to get your opinions in the comments below. And I appreciate you for vibing with the Bull as always. Let's go Sixers. Let's go win a championship. I'm optimistic. I think we can win. I think we could be a dynasty. Let's go get some chips. Let's go get some rings. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you vibing with me. If you're a Philadelphia 76er fan, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's go Sixers. I'm out.